book out so I can take notes. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Sam, you ready?
I'm gonna set us up on Facebook quick.
Okay,
That.
I'll wait. Okay, now we're ready. Cool.
No.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Howell, Executive Director of Bloomfield Development Corporation, and with me is my coworker, Sam Spearing, our Housing and Mobility Coordinator. We'll be co-facilitating this meeting tonight. Sorry, there's a big meeting is now streaming on Facebook. As you've seen pop up on your screens, we are recording this meeting as well as broadcasting live on Facebook. A couple of housekeeping things and then a quick overview of BDC. I'll make it real quick. Then we'll introduce the development team to present the project. That'll take anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes. And then Sam and I will facilitate question and answer period where anyone can ask questions, which we will ask that you raise your hand or drop them in the chat, and Sam or I will read them. And then once questions run out or we hit 7:30, 7:45, we will ask the development team to leave the meeting. And then we will have a talk among the community that will not be broadcast live on Facebook among the meeting attendees so that we can better understand kind of folks' position on this project. And there will be notes that we will give the developer on that section, but they won't identify any one person, because we want everyone to feel that they can speak freely. In addition, we won't take any notes on specific people. After the meeting, we can take questions via email, phone call, or Facebook Messenger for about a week. And then we will formulate an opinion, a formal opinion in writing that we will provide to the zoning board. Zoning Board of Adjustments, which is the legal entity that is reviewing the requests from the development team in order to build this house. Anyone can submit their opinion or show up to testify. That hearing is tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. And there is a link on the city website if you Google Pittsburgh zoning. You'll find a link there to join the meeting. And Sam or I are happy if you reach out tonight or tomorrow morning and need some help with that. We're happy to kind of talk you through that, but you'll also be able to submit testimony for hopefully up to 2 weeks. We're asking them to leave the record open for 2 weeks after the hearing so that we can submit our letter, as well as giving everyone here or other folks an opportunity to submit. Thank you, Sam. Sam will be dropping information in the chat as we go along. So quick note about BDC. Our vision is a Bloomfield where everyone can build a home, a business in the future. Our mission is to build a thriving, diverse community through equitable engagement. We are a registered community organization. That means there's a process at the city level to ensure that we operate, community groups are operating transparently, doing thorough outreach before meetings, sharing information openly, and requiring developers to meet with us in situations like this. We work to create and preserve affordable housing. Some of you may know we just got a win in covering Bloomfield with inclusionary zoning, which, to give a concrete example, will require Echo Realty, the developer of the SureSave site, to provide 20 units that will be affordable to seniors on a fixed income, low-income individuals, folks receiving disability, for instance. So super exciting. There's more about that on our website, bloomfieldpgh.org. I feel like a salesperson right now. Keep going. We also do small business support and promotion. We're currently doing our second Saturday event, which has been snowed out, sleeted out, and might be rained out this weekend for the first 3, but we're still going to do it to keep businesses open late so folks can go explore. We work in mobility and infrastructure. That looks mostly like advocating for changes to our streets to make them safer for pedestrians, intersections clearer for cyclists and buses, as well as kind of managing the new mobility things that are coming into Bloomfield, scooters, electric bikes, etc. And by managing, I mean helping the city figure out where those things should go when they are proposed for a neighborhood. We also run the Bloomfield Saturday Market, where you can get in the fall free flu shots. We match $5 spent in SNAP benefits with $2 for free every week, no limit. So tell your friends and neighbors. And then the reason we're here tonight is we advocate for community responsive development. What are the community's needs, wants? What will the impact be to the surrounding neighbors? Both, traffic, infrastructure, construction, all of those things. So with that, I just want to say that during the meeting, if you've called in, I don't think anyone has called in, so I'm going to skip that part. Okay. So I'm going to introduce the development team in just a minute. There are 4 folks here, Rebecca Siegel, Eric Smook, and then Jen Lucchino and Freddie Croce. Did I say that right? Croce? Okay, Croce. Okay, thank you. Those 2 are sharing a screen. And we want to disclose that Jennifer Lucchino, one of the architects working on this project, is a member of Bloomfield Development Corporation's infrastructure committee, or property and planning committee, which often reviews kind of these meetings and helps kind of us, Sam and I, think through the decisions and what we heard at the community meeting. Jen will be recusing herself from those discussions in our committee meeting. So just wanted to clarify that for transparency. So at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the development team, unless I've left anything out, Sam. And oh, one quick note. Sam is taking notes, so typing notes as well as it being live streamed. So at some points I may stop you and ask you to repeat something, or Sam might. Just know we're trying to get really thorough notes about what everyone's saying. Sam, did I forget anything?
I don't think so. I just need to know if someone from the development team is able to run the presentation. And if so, who should I give permission to?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I'm not that great at it, but I was just gonna hit the screen share button. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, I think I need to give you permission though.
Okay. Should we just introduce ourselves and then I'll screen share, or should we do the screen first?
You can introduce yourselves first. That way it's easier for everybody to see you.
Okay,
Cool.
and then if I have trouble getting it open, then at least you know who I am already. Okay.
Yeah. Can I interject one thing quickly? We will be keeping you on mute. There was already some background noise, so I muted a couple people who weren't on mute, just to make it so that everyone can hear whoever's speaking. But once we call on you during the question and answer, please feel free to take yourself off mute, or if you don't know how, wave at us, or we'll just notice and take you off mute. Sorry. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I am Rebecca Siegel. I am Pittsburgh native, grew up in Shadyside, Squirrel Hill, and Greenfield. I went to Alderdice. I am a realtor and I'm a licensed attorney, but I don't really practice. My preferred job is I'm actually a landlord. I have about 30 units in and around Pittsburgh, east suburbs of Pittsburgh. Many of these are Section 8 affordable housing. And I'm excited to do this project, especially as a native of the area. I grew up with a bunch of friends from Bloomfield, my age, so it's going to be fun for us. And other than that, that's me. And then Eric, please go ahead.
Sure, just taking myself off of mute, sorry. I'm Eric Smoke. I'm Rebecca's partner on this project. I'm also a real estate investor. I live in the city of Pittsburgh in the Point Breeze area. I own several rental properties as well, primarily in the east suburbs of Allegheny County. Like Rebecca, many of mine are Section 8. I also, work in the digital media space as like kind of my day job for the USA Today network. I've been with them for about 11 years now. So I second that as far as what Rebecca says. We're excited about this project and looking forward to, going through the slides.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share the screen, and I'm really sorry if I'm not doing it right. I think I am. If somebody can tell me if this looks right. Can you guys see my cover page?
I
Yep.
can.
Yep,
Okay.
looks good.
And it looks right. There's no, I see faces on the right side, but you guys don't see all that, right?
We see faces too, but we can see your presentation. So
Okay,
you can go
all right.
ahead when you're ready.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is a new construction build, single family residence at 413 Pearl Street. We are seeking, we already introduced ourselves, so I'll go to the next one. We are seeking two relatively straightforward variances from the zoning board. One of these is in order to allow us to build right on the property line, a 0-foot setback rather than the 3-foot setback that is typically required. So we are asking for that variance. We are also asking for a variance with regard to the property is currently, as you'll see in a following picture, it's a double lot, and there's a house on one part of the lot, and then there's the part of the lot that we intend to build on, which is currently a vacant lot. So we're requesting a subdivision to make these two different lots in order to build on 413 Pearl Street. So with that, I will move on, and Eric's going to talk about the subdivision plan.
So yeah, this is our subdivision plan. Currently, this is one lot. As you can see, there's one 2-story dwelling facing Garnett Way. The address of that dwelling is 413 Garnett. As the lot is, it's currently 125.5 feet deep by 20 feet wide. There are currently 2 parking spots on the lot. The 2 vehicles are currently parked on proposed lot 1. We're proposing to subdivide the lot in half, making each lot 62.75 feet deep by 20 feet wide. So we're going to be going over the new subdivision plan with parking later on in the presentation, but I think it makes sense to mention now that we will be adding 1 additional parking spot. So, once the lot is subdivided, there will be 2 parking spots on lot 1 and 1 parking spot on lot 2. So a total of 3 spaces versus the current 2. With, Bloomfield obviously having very limited off-street parking, we feel like adding that 3rd parking spot adds some value and helps out the neighborhood a little bit. So, Rebecca, you can keep going with the slide.
Okay, great. Okay, was there anything on the close-up view?
No, I mean, this is just, you can simply see a zoomed in version of proposed lot 1 here.
Right. Next, you'll find our site plan. This was drawn up by Inner Architecture, and I'll just use my cursor. The new house that we are proposing to build is going to be located right here, 413 Pearl Street. Right here is Pearl, here is Essex Way, and over here on the right is Garnett. right here where my cursor is the currently existing 413 Garnett structure. And this again will be the new when we subdivide it right through the middle. We have two things going on here. One of them is a parking structure, which we haven't determined exactly what this will be yet, but this will be two car structure of some sort. So it'll fit 2 cars with a 3-foot gap, followed by a property that, as you can see here, is we're seeking 17 feet wide property, which means that we need the variance to be off of Essex Way directly on the property line. And then we're 3 feet from the other property line, which is standard. And essentially we're mirroring, actually going to be slightly smaller than the existing house on Garnett, and sitting on the property line also like Garnett is, as most of these houses are as well. Eric, did I miss anything here?
Yeah, before we get on to the next slide, I just wanted to point out that without that 0-foot setback along Essex, the buildable width of the property would only be 14 feet wide. The typical width of all the houses in the neighborhood, not all the houses, but most of the houses in the neighborhood are 17 feet. And there was a former house that used to sit on this site years ago, and that house was 20 feet wide. So we're basically asking for, as far as 17 feet, we're asking for consistency in the neighborhood, if that makes sense.
Right. And we'll get into the former house in some slides to follow. Also, right now, I forgot to mention, if anybody would like a copy of the presentation when we're done, feel free to let us know. We'd be happy to email it out. Okay. So moving on, elevations that Eric will present.
Yeah, I can go over this. So the maximum, as a lot of you probably already know, the maximum height allowed for a single family dwelling in a very high density residential area like Bloomfield is 40 feet and 3 stories. As you can see in the image, our intention is to stay below the required height limitation. We intend on building a 3-story structure with a rooftop deck, and the square footage utilized for that mezzanine up top kind of gives access to the outdoor deck area. It would not be large enough to be considered a story, so the property can technically still be a 3-story dwelling and below the 40-foot height limitation.
And I would add that the intent is really the left side of this is Pearl Street over here. So the intent is basically, you can't even really see this little part over here when you're on Pearl Street. It's not like a full story at all, as Eric mentioned.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah, you can go on. So these are our massing studies. I'd like to preface this by saying, our intent is to build an entire house with shipping containers. I think we're a little too early in the process to provide you with details on our proposed looks and aesthetics of the house. These massing studies are just a preliminary outline of the intended footprint of the lot. As you can see on the left-hand side, we're estimating just under 2,000 square feet of interior living space. Once the proposed structure is properly insulated, this would decrease the square footage to around 1,600 to 1,700 square feet. That's, approximately, that's the intention. As you can see, there's a 2-car parking area that would be facing Essex Way. If you're looking at the plot from Essex, our intention would be to have the parking to the right of the primary structure with 3 feet of separation. And I think Rebecca already mentioned that. So, regardless of how many shipping containers we're able to utilize in this project, our intention would be to, build something contemporary in general. And we feel like, the use of shipping containers is, it would allow us to build something in a very stylistic, charming way. And we feel like it wouldn't be something out of the context of the neighborhood. It wouldn't be an eyesore, you know, that type of thing. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, so we'll get into that later as well. We have some examples and we have a couple of slides on that, but we wanted to give you the heads up on that so that when you're visualizing this, you can sort of see in some way what we're thinking rather than a traditional stick build. So and then oh yes, Eric, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So this is the south. This is just like the new structure in correlation to the neighboring structures from the south elevation. This slide basically gives a general idea of the elevations of the proposed structure by comparison to the existing structure on 413 Garnett Way. So this view would be if you were standing on Essex Way facing the proposed subdivided lot. You can move on to the next one, Rebecca. And this one would be the west elevation. So, you know, basically facing Pearl Street. If you were standing on Pearl, looking at like 411 Pearl, proposed 413 Pearl, and 415 Pearl.
Right. And I would add that this green at the top is, as we discussed, that top level that's not a story. So,
Right.
Okay. And then getting into what we're trying to do here and why we're seeking a variance. As Eric pointed out, the property that we're building is in keeping entirely with the structures in and around it. And in fact, there was a previous structure on this specific piece of land. It was a large, very large Insel brick red structure, 20 feet wide. So it encompassed the entire width of the property with no setbacks on either side, 30 feet long. And this was torn down at some point in the 90s. And I actually know the former owner of the land. So she was able to tell me a little bit about this. That's how I know it was a large structure as it was. So this is an old map from 1939. If you look here, these are the county website photos, which show this old structure. And it's right here. Here's the Essex Way street sign. And then here would be 415 Pearl. So here's the house that used to be there. Another view of it a little farther back is here. And the reason we're demonstrating this is to show that it was there before. So it's going to be something even smaller now, but just putting something back where something once existed. And just in case anybody wanted to make sure that existed, the previous deeds from 1977 and 1980 show I highlighted it, it's a little bit hard to read, a 2-story frame dwelling house known as 413 Pearl Street and a 2-story frame dwelling house in the rear thereof, which is 413 Garnett. So, you know, and in keeping with what we're trying to do, the variance is necessary in order to build right on the property line, just as this house was since the 30s or earlier, which we don't have record of, but we know it was at least the 30s since it was there.
Yeah,
Eric?
this is just the curb cut permit. We just wanted that to demonstrate that that was approved already. So.
And then here you can see we started off with this, and just to show you, Eric started talking about the parking, and now so you can see as he said, the curb cut permit has actually been approved already. So here we have 20 feet for the 2 cars that will be on lot 1 with the parking structure. And over here at the 413 Garnett is now going to be 1 parking space 6 feet off of the property line.
So now we're kind of getting into variance number 2, which is frontage on street required. In our proposed subdivision, we would be creating a lot without street frontage. So the current lot as it stands, you know, faces Garnett Way and Essex Way and Pearl Street. If we subdivide the lot, the existing structure 413 Garnett Way would only face Garnett Way and Essex Way. So this slide and the next couple of slides, you're just going to get a few examples of many examples that we've actually found of parcels without street frontage.
Right. So just breezing through here. And next up.
Yep. So these are just, container home examples. Like I said earlier in the presentation, our intention is to, build the structure with shipping containers. And we felt it would be, beneficial to show a few examples of shipping container homes that were built in very high density residential areas, similar to what we're doing here. Similar to what we want to do here, I should say. If you really wanted to get a better idea of like the charm and the character that these homes have to offer, there are like a myriad of examples all over the internet. You can look it up on Google. Obviously, there's several video examples on YouTube if you wanted to see more. This first example here is, in my opinion, a wonderful example of our intended structure. This home was built out of 6 40-foot shipping containers, minus the steps connected onto the right-hand side of the home. This is a really good example of what our proposed vision is. And all of the examples that we chose here are very charming, stylistic, in my opinion. We chose them specifically because they were all built in high-density residential areas. And we just kind of, basically just showing proof that it can be done, and it has been done. So you can also see, there's articles, there's like links to articles at the bottom of these examples.
Yeah, and I would just add, as he said, here's the first example. This was done in Canada. Another one also done in Canada, and then another one here. And we specifically picked these, just to reiterate, you can go, there are these homes that are nothing short of palatial. I mean, they're architecturally stunning, but to include them in our, we figure people could do their own research if they're interested, but because to include them in this particular presentation, it is not exactly apples to apples. So we put these here so that you could see what it will realistically look like. Like he said, this is going to be a lot like what we think it'll look like in terms of the structure without the stairs. Sorry for reiterating that. But again, if you want to read the articles, we'll email you, that you can easily get the link. We'll email the whole presentation when we're done.
And, there's a ton of benefits to building with shipping containers. These would just be a few of the many benefits of utilizing shipping containers to construct a residential home. By comparison to traditional stick build, they can be simple, quick to construct. They're very durable. They're built to withstand some of the harshest weather conditions, since the original use is for shipping materials overseas. They can be extremely eco-friendly. Our intention would be to basically recycle a slightly used container or multiple containers. And then as far as like prefab, most of the work could be completed in the factory. So our intention would be to mitigate the amount of work that needs to be done on site, and kind of limit the amount of noise that could be caused by on-site construction, and the amount of time that contractors need to be working in the neighborhood.
Right. So they would just be brought in, placed there. All of the cutting has been done outside of this site, so they'll be kind of just placed there, and it won't be like watching a full build. Of course, there's interior finishes, but that doesn't disrupt the outside. Another point of this is that you should know that with these types of homes, there is no basement dug out. So there's like a small piece of foundation, but there's no digging of a basement. Therefore, you don't have to do that. Another thing that cuts down on the time to build, but specifically, that's good because it wouldn't and shouldn't affect any neighboring structures, given that you're not digging out a basement and you're just sort of setting these things on footers. So the lack of having to do that is another benefit that we saw and that we like.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, just to add a little bit on top of what Rebecca just said, we're trying to be as conscientious as possible regarding the community, which is why we plan on doing it this way. I mean, obviously building an entire foundation, digging a large basement, we don't want to affect any of the neighboring structures' foundations.
And then, as we prepared for this presentation, we got some feedback that there were concerns about, and hopefully, whoever is listening is maybe familiar with this site. If you're on Garnett and you turn onto Essex, or if you're walking from Cedarville to Essex, anyway, you're on Essex and you're walking toward Pearl Street. There was a concern that by building a structure, you would no longer be able to see traffic that's coming off of Pearl onto Essex, making that left, which now you can you have to peer through trees and a fence in order to see this traffic. And so in response to that, we would just note that firstly, as we pointed out in previous slides, there was in fact a very tall and large structure here at one point, standing there for at least 50 years plus. So it was there before. So we're really not doing anything that wasn't there before in terms of the site. And additionally, we looked around the neighborhood to make sure that this wasn't an uncommon situation. And here are a couple examples. And this was I was driving down Taylor Street from an appointment, and I noticed these and grabbed a couple. So I'm sure I could go find more, but Wirtz and Taylor, if you're standing on Pearl, looking at this is the same thing, because backing up. There is a concern because Essex doesn't have a sidewalk, and that's why this is a major concern. So the ways that are here also do not have sidewalks, and that would be, the views you're getting are similar to the ones that would be Essex to Pearl, with an obstruction from Panama looking onto Taylor. Sorry, I should be using the cursor. Coming up Panama, the traffic comes from Taylor this way. You would not be able to see past this building, and there's no sidewalk. It cuts off on the right side. Same here, walking downwards toward Taylor, traffic comes this way, turning on here, and you're not able to see it due to this building or this building. So we just wanted to address that since we heard that it might be a question that people had. And I think in terms of our presentation, other than the fact that we just think that, we just are very excited about it. We think it's going to be something really new, really cool for all of the reasons that we stated. And it's just going to be a great addition to the neighborhood. So we're very excited about starting it, and we look forward to everybody's feedback.
And just in conclusion, I also just want to say, the main thing that we're trying to communicate here from all this is that, the two zoning variances that we're requesting are really pretty straightforward. And it's only limited to those two specific issues. So other than that, like Rebecca said, we're excited and open for questions.
Thank you so much. So again,
I'm so sorry. Am I allowed to stop sharing the screen? How does that work?
Well, actually, you might want to keep it up because we can refer to that during questions.
Okay,
so
got it.
Let's leave it up.
Good.
So again, please put your questions either in the chat or raise your hand or any other emoji down there, and we will call on you, and then you can unmute yourself, or we can unmute you if you're having trouble. But just to clarify, again, there are two zoning variances being requested. And what that means is there is a standard for how you can build in our neighborhood, for anyone not familiar with zoning. And so they're requesting to not abide by two of those standards, because there's a whole lot in the zoning code, in order to build this in the way they want to build it. And the test of the zoning board is that financial is not a reason. There has to be clear reasons that they are requesting those specific variances and very clear justification. And last, I want to say again, BDC will listen here and formulate a formal opinion. We'll also put these slides and notes on our website, on Facebook, and we'll email them to everyone here because you'll have to register to join. And anyone can submit testimony to zoning. You can submit your opinion. You know, you can oppose with conditions, support with conditions. Our most common for BDC is support with conditions, but we have opposed. We have opposed with conditions, which is a weird one, but we've done it. So anyway, I'm going to open up the chat and start looking for hands. So I have a question here that is, will these homes, and there's only one home, will the home be rented or for sale?
So the idea would be to sell it. That is our primary goal. We are like 90-something% sure that that will happen. But if for some reason the market would take a dip and we weren't able to sell it, we would consider like a long-term lease. We have absolutely taken any idea of Airbnb off the table. That's not even a possibility. So if we can do what we want to do, we will sell it. In a very bad scenario, we'll rent it, similarly to how I have 413 Garnett rented right now on a year-long or longer lease. But that's not the idea. The idea is for the sale.
Okay.
Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Sam, well, this is a good follow-up question. And then Sam alerted me that Dennis Talek, you had your hand up on camera. So we'll get to you and then Amber. In the chat, how much do you anticipate selling this home for?
We're looking in about currently, according to the comps of right now, we're thinking around the 550 range. Again, can't promise it. That's where we think we'll land, where we hope we'll land. If the market takes a dip, we may end up lower than that. If for some reason the market's telling us it's worth more than that, then we'll deal with that accordingly. So, but this is where we think we are building today, that range.
Okay. Dennis, go ahead. Do you know how to unmute yourself? I can do it for you. Here you go. Did it work? Didn't work. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dennis Talek. I live on Cedarville Street. I have a few questions. First of all, are these used containers?
They are, yes.
Okay. From what I understand, I've done a little bit of research on these. These are commercial containers that are spray painted to withhold or withstand going across the seas and oceans. What is the effect on these? Because they're sprayed with some pretty heavy duty paint and to withstand some of the salt water and all this other. What kind of effects is that going to have? I mean, on the environment. And second, I have questions on the structure or the stability of these structures. I understand that the structure itself is the only strength it has is on its four corners. And if I understand, if you cut into these, like put windows and doors, you're actually the structure is less stable. Can you kind of give us an idea of how this is going to work and again, I have another question is, you're going to have a crane to put these in there. And that street is very narrow. I mean, how long is this, how long is this alley going to be? Because you're going to have to block off the alley to put a crane in it, plus all the lines, the telephone lines and all this other. I'm very curious of how this is going to happen. I mean, this is pretty narrow alley. We already have problems with trucks and stuff coming through there as it is.
So I can touch on all of these things. And once I'm done talking, Jen, Rebecca, if either of you have anything to say to add on to it, that's fine. As far as your first question with the spray paint on the outside of the containers, we're planning on encapsulating the inside and the outside of these containers so that there's no, harsh issues with, living situations and or any sort of exterior issues from the outside, harming the environment with anything. So the answer to that question, in my opinion, would be to just encapsulate from the inside, from the exterior and the interior in order to remove any sort of harsh elements, whether it be on the outside or the inside.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean by encapsulating?
So as far as encapsulating the interior, like let's say, for instance, we found that there was a issue with, let's say there was some materials that were shipped overseas that were contaminated and they spilled, and we found some sort of a spill of some substance on the inside of the container. We would then obviously clean out the entire container as far as the way that the contractor, the person that's going to be handling this whole project, he specializes in building, shipping, structures out of shipping containers. And he would probably be the best person to answer that question, not myself. But
Can I jump in real quick, Eric, too?
Yeah.
Before I forget. So we have talked to Dennis. We've talked to a pretty wide variety of people with this. The crane people is, I guess, Eric, I don't know if you started with that or not, but with the shipping container contractors, he's referencing contractor, there are people who build only with shipping containers. The person that we intend on, we haven't signed contracts yet with him because we haven't got our variances or anything else. This person has dealt with shipping containers through government contracts. So building government facilities, a lot of them in Florida, in different places. So we've really relied very much on this individual's knowledge and everything he's able to tell us. We also interviewed other shipping container contractors. There's somebody out of Cleveland, not a huge amount of these particular people, because this is kind of a small niche of people who build, but these various professionals have assured us that there are ways, and we're just not the experts to explain it, how to make it clean, how to make it work. The worst thing ever, we can't make the occupants suffer in any way. So of course we have to do it in such a way that everyone around is safe. So I don't know that we can speak to the specifics of how, but I can guarantee that it will be safe in every regard in terms of whatever materials are used and what may have or have not been on them at any point. Then secondly, with the rigor, with the crane people, Eric has met, and I didn't do as much as Eric with this, but has met with and talked to a huge number of crane. And when I say huge, maybe 5 different crane people, and gotten all kinds of different explanations of how this might be able to be done. We've met with Duquesne Light to talk about if they would need to remove wires or not. And we've come up with a way in which we think everything will be, oh, he's raising his hand. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, Rebecca and everybody, Dennis. If I can jump in. Hi, my name is Freddie Croce. I'm with Into Architecture. We have designed a container addition in Lawrenceville that's been built in the city of Pittsburgh. And so we're a bit familiar with the containers, how to get them on the site, and to incorporate them in an existing structure. And so your question of, first off, the exterior and or the container in and of itself. There are various types of containers and how many uses they've gone through. And typically you find single-use containers or at most a double-use container. And you can select containers that have not been exposed to any kinds of contaminants or that sort of thing. So you can find clean containers, and that would be and when you purchase them. So that would be the first intent for anybody using a container for a home. Second, the paint on the exterior is not, it's durable, but it's not toxic. So typically, and so that would be one thing. On the interior, you provide extra surface, you basically frame from in the inside, and then put typical interior finishes, and so that protects the interior as well. In Dennis, your concern about the structure on the four corners, you're absolutely right. The integrity is typically on the four corners. They can stack these things 8 feet high. But if one was to take a considerable amount of material away from the long side, you would support it. So I would just back up and say, in general, when you're using shipping containers, think of it this way. Rebecca and Eric are proposing a 3-story structure. It will be designed to support 3 stories on the site, and the foundation will be designed accordingly. If there is an opening or what have you in the container, that would be engineered to be supported, that container, and those containers on top, or the structure all around it. So that's the one thing. Your concern about the crane coming in and around the site, it is tricky. There's no doubt about it. You asked specifically in terms of time. There are two things about that. If a lot of the work in the interior can be done beforehand, or other things can be prepped, and then the containers pulled in and set in place, that can take a day. It'd be a long, ugly day, admittedly. They would have to stop, cut the street, or access to the street, because the crane would take up most of it, or the shipping containers would. But that would be the single issue. At most, maybe 2 days, right? Maybe or half a day, and then another half a day, just because of logistics. Maybe you don't want the street open or closed for that long a time. So I think there's the concern about the structure also, backing up, is this is still very preliminary, and this zoning variance is to set the structure on the site primarily. We don't know at this point the feasibility of how many containers will be used, how much will be additional structure, what those materials exactly would be. But we do know at this point that in order for Eric and Rebecca to have a building worth selling, or it would have to have a certain size, and the location would have to be what's typical for this site. So does that clarify things a little bit for you, Dennis? I don't know if anybody can hear, but I can't hear Dennis.
No, I just
Okay.
requested to unmute him.
Okay,
Okay, sorry.
If you could do a quick follow-up question so I can get to the other folks who are waiting, that'd be
okay.
awesome. Thank you.
The reason why I asked, one of the reason for because they're going to be, first of all, I want to know how you're going to get a 40-foot trailer in here or down Pearl Street and turn around and come back out of there. I mean, this is not an area where you can get large vehicles like that in and out. And that's going to be one of my problems. The second problem I have is, what did the fire department think about buildings like this? I mean, this has got to be a nightmare for the fire department if that catches on fire. I mean, these are some of the concerns I'm having. So, I mean, I'm just bringing up some of the things. Plus, I mean, I don't understand. The stick building would be more feasible than trying to build a building out of a bunch of containers. I just don't get the concept. I don't. I'm sorry. I
Well,
mean, it seems like it's more trouble than what it's worth. And I want to point out that there is a couple of sites on here. It's called Tree Huggers, and there's architects like Lloyd Alter. He has I'd like people to read up on it. It's called Shipping Containers. What's wrong with shipping containers, housing, and what architects say. So I would like to point that out. There's also another architect named Belinda Carr, that she has also an article I'd like people to read about shipping containers and why they're not feasible in neighborhoods. So
Thanks.
I
Sorry, I
just have
appreciate those.
I have a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
okay,
Sorry to
thank you.
cut you off.
That's all right.
If you
Thank
could-
you.
No, it's okay. If you all could maybe address some of those, and
Okay.
then Amber, I know you've been waiting a while, and Pat, I think you have a question too. Go ahead.
real quick, to address the 40-foot container issue, once the container is taken off, the beauty of the containers is you literally just attach wheels to the container. And so the tractor can come down off of Liberty and come down the street. And once the container is removed, then it's just a tractor trailer, which is just not much larger than a large truck. And so that's one way of mitigating getting trailer 40-foot container onto the site.
So question, you're saying then that trailer would back to Liberty rather than
Doesn't have to
turning
back
around?
up. It doesn't have
Okay.
to back up. Once the trailer is removed, all you have left is the tractor. But-
that'll never come around Pearl Street and the bottom
Oh,
and come around up Cedarville Street. That tractor trailer will never do that.
I think I get what you're saying is that you're actually going to put wheels on the shipping
container is-
container itself and attach it to the truck cab.
That's how
And
it
so then when you-
works. That's how a container works.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so that's
So there's no trailer bed. It's just the shipping container.
correct. And
Okay.
well, so that's one way of doing it. A plus at this point, we're not even sure we are using containers. We're not sure we're using 40-foot containers. We may be using 20-foot containers too. In terms of the feasibility of using shipping containers, once again, yes, we know that it's difficult to use those things. It actually is a little bit difficult, but it's difficult because it's not typical. So it's a different way of construction, and there are ways of mitigating it. And yet again, we're not exactly sure. We're still working on the feasibility. So regardless of whether it's shipping containers or not, it is the size of the structure that we're trying to address right here. The materials, it's contemporary in nature, and it most likely will be some metal. That's sort of the intent, and that still may change. And then we talk about other aesthetic choices, but
Can I just address one other point? You asked about the fire department, and absolutely the container will be built to all up-to-date codes. There'll be absolutely no issues with this structure as opposed to any other residences in the neighborhood or elsewhere.
yeah, there is no variance on any of that at all. So this structure will meet code and will be safe, and the fire department will have a say in that as well.
Amber, you had a question. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Rebecca, Eric, I met you the other day in a weird way in front of my house. I'm at 415 Pearl. And thanks for the presentation. It answered a lot of the questions that I've been thinking about since then. My one question, I don't think you brought up in the presentation, but I did have a chance to talk to the neighbors living at 413 Garnet. And in your presentation, it is shown that the patio there will be pushed back to make space for the second lot. Is that right? And
Yeah.
and so that's my concern is a little bit about that noise in that process specifically.
Oh, so just, you mean just to
lot
create
prepared.
the curb cut and the parking space on Garnett? Is that what you're asking?
Essentially, yeah. What does the
Okay.
timeline and the process look for the preparation of the lot
So
pre-container?
that's gonna be a pretty easy one. Kind of like when I did the gravel on where the gravel is right now. It's going to be a lot like that. I'm just going to cut it. I'm either going to do an actual curb cut and have people pull up onto the existing concrete slab, or I'm just going to demo that slab and put gravel. The fence obviously has to kind of like at least be cut. Probably I might replace it, but it doesn't have to be coming down in full. The parking will essentially sit like right up against where their like their little back deck and stairs go down. It'll be the parking right there. And it won't be, just to be clear, it will not be the tandem parking it is now. It'll be like the pull in so that you're perpendicular to Essex, which makes a lot more sense anyway. So to answer your question about timing, it shouldn't be a large process because I'm not building a garage. I'm not even building like a covered parking. It's either going to be demo concrete, pour new, or put gravel or pull up onto the existing concrete. So
that's for, oh, sorry, that's for the existing house, but for the new house, what does that parking look like? Like, will you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was she asking? I thought she was.
No, I don't know, but I'm asking a follow-up question because I figured, you know,
Okay.
that's one parking space, but what about the other two? You mentioned a garage, so will there be a large concrete truck doing a pour, that kind of thing?
Right.
That we haven't really, the reason that we have created a site plan that says parking structure is because we really haven't got there yet. You know, we had a variety of different ideas, but we know that it's going to be some type of covered parking, possibly a garage. I just unfortunately can't really speak to exactly. I don't know. What do you think, Eric? Is there anything you want to add to that?
I would just say our ideal situation would be to have a 2-car garage, but you know, nothing is set in stone at this point. It's just too preliminary to give you a precise answer on that.
Right.
You know, but it is, like Rebecca said, it is going to be some sort of covered parking structure.
And I couldn't even tell you if we're going to pour concrete. We could end up keeping the gravel or pour the concrete. I don't want to be wrong. No, I really don't know. So I'm sorry.
No, it seems like we should just operate on the assumption that there will be a garage, just because that's the goal, it sounds like, or the ideal.
Yes.
So we can all just operate from that assumption.
Right.
Let's see, Pat had asked, what is the construction time? So if you're using all shipping containers, what is the construction time? And if you are doing a partial stick build, what would your construction time look like, do you think?
I mean, I think it would be less with the containers, but I'll let Jen and Freddie kind of elaborate on that. I think they would be more suited to talk about that question.
Sure. Yeah, Freddie unfortunately had to step out, but I can answer that. So for a typical stick build, these days you might be looking at 8 months, maybe longer. Everything is a little bit slower currently. For a container, it really depends on the method and what is worked out with the contractor. The idea that Eric described earlier would be the ideal, which is that a good amount of the container is prefabricated off-site. So when it's delivered to the site, a large part of the work is already done on the containers. Clearly, there still will be site work in terms of foundations and utilities and all of that. So that would minimize the construction time, but we're, as has been pointed out, it's a little bit premature because to be able to give a super specific answer, because there are ongoing discussions and Eric and Rebecca haven't, moved forward because we're going through this zoning variance process. But so I would expect that it would not be longer than a stick built process. It would be shorter regardless.
Okay. Are there other questions? If not, I have a list. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is about stormwater. So I feel like this building is occupying a fair amount of the land. And that's not uncommon in Bloomfield, but we do have a very overtaxed stormwater system. And, you know, with how tight the houses are, you might end up kind of having rainwater pouring onto neighbors' property. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how will this property manage any stormwater? Or maybe it's too early to say, I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be, it has to be built with in the best way up to code. I mean, I know that there's code about stormwater, sewer water, you know, all of that, not combining, whatever it is, it's gonna be built with the utmost quality and, you know, have to go through PLI. I know probably Eric might want to speak to that, or Jen, but I know that it's not, in no way will we let it pour onto the other property.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are strategies that we haven't even had a chance to discuss yet, using rain barrels and other things with the ample deck area on the roof. There's definitely opportunity for that, but I don't want to get too far ahead of the process. But there, you know, definitely, I'm sure those will be issues that we'll address, and it's a good issue to bring up for sure.
Cool. Can you tell us about your, the entrance wasn't exactly clear, so it looked like the entrance was going to be on the corner. Is there a cutout that goes like on the corner, further on Essex, like you step in and maybe there's a cutout, and what landscaping will look like?
And maybe you could, Rebecca, go back to one of the images that show maybe the isometric drawing. That might be the best one to refer to.
Which is
Back one. Yeah, that last one, actually.
Or down. There you go.
Actually, this one is fine, but then we could also look at the 3D drawing.
no, okay. Am I lost? This one?
Yeah, I mean, okay, that shows it in 3D from the corner. And the idea is that the edge of the corner of the container, the front portion there, will be cut out so that the door is set back. So there will be some sight lines around the corner. If you want to go back to the Pearl Street elevation, maybe that will be easier for folks to read. The first one you had, I think 2 in the other direction.
I'm sorry, Pearl Street.
There,
This one?
there.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, right there. So you can see that.
Great. And the tree there's no tree in the tree pit on the front. The trees, there's a lot of kind of mature trees there. Bloomfield has the 8th smallest tree canopy out of 90 neighborhoods. Do you plan to keep any of those or replace them elsewhere on the site?
Right. So I planted those trees. There may be one that I didn't plant, but I planted the rest of them, and they've gotten really big since I purchased that land in 2009. I cannot promise at all, since we really, as you can see, we're not really that far along in the process to know specific lines, but I can tell you that a lot of these trees that are next to 411 Pearl are within the 3-foot setback. So there's a chance that they might be able to stay. And I hope that is the case. So there will be quite a few, there's 12 trees. There's quite a few that have a very good chance of staying, and also one on the Pearl side. So there would be at least 2 that would come down, and hopefully the rest would stay. That's the goal. And if not, we would plant. It's something additional. I think that it would be beautiful. As much as we can landscape it, we will.
Okay.
I would add on that the intention is to keep as many as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, if the contractor comes in and says, you know, these 3 have to go or whatever, we're not really going to have any choice but to listen to him or her. But as far as, you know, our intention, it's to keep as many as we can.
Right. And the other thing is, we hope that because we don't have to dig a foundation, you're setting them on footers. that doesn't disturb as much of the surrounding area where the trees already are.
That makes sense. So the stick build, I know, again, this is preliminary. Typically stick builds do in Pittsburgh have a basement. So would you change your plans to include a basement if you end up having to do a 100% wood frame house?
Go ahead, Rebecca. Sorry.
You know what, we just honestly, we haven't considered that. And a lot of new construction, as you know, in Lawrenceville doesn't have the basements, but those usually have the integral garage on the ground level and then like that. So no, I don't think we would do anything like that. Not like the Lawrenceville houses. But as for to be certain, I can't say. Eric, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, getting back to like the trees, you know, we're talking about the trees, and the intention is to keep as many trees as possible. I would say, like, you know, when it comes to the build, our intention is to build with as many shipping containers as we can. And we've already been told by several crane riggers, and along with a contractor who does this kind of work quite a bit, they're all, I wouldn't say 100% confident, but well, pretty close to 100% confident that we can at the very least obtain shipping containers on the ground floor on footers. So with that being said, I really don't think that we would even be in a situation where we would have to consider you know, going 100% stick build. You know, if we had to, you know, build something like a hybrid home type of situation where it was half shipping containers, half traditional stick build, that's certainly an option. So I'll just leave it at that.
Then back to your question about the basement, I think probably not, but I can't but like he said, there would really never be a need to have a basement. And I don't think we would do one, even if we had. I just don't, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
would not be the preferred route at all.
yeah, the ground floor, I mean, like I said, the intention is to build with as many shipping containers as we can. And, you know, we're getting a lot of positive news from, you know, not only crane riggers, but the contractor, that we can, at the very minimum, you know, do the first floor with shipping containers. And, you know, in my opinion, that's a benefit to the neighbors, because, you know, we wouldn't have to dig a basement. We wouldn't have to, you know, dig a huge foundation and potentially affect the neighboring foundations. So, you know, that is our intention.
I have one more question. So I understand, I was looking on a couple of, you know, engineering sites, and I know that the longevity of shipping containers can be, you know, 15 to 25 years until they need some major maintenance, which, you know, major maintenance for a roof is replacing a house. So I guess that's an expectation of anyone buying a home. But it said that it could be lowered in humid or rainy climates, especially, and that rust is an issue. So I'm curious if you'll be doing or planning to do any sort of cladding on the outside to kind of minimize that. Or, you know, if the outside is treated, is there a potential leaching situation from whatever the outside is treated with to protect it from the elements? If that needs to happen.
Eric, is it okay if I comment?
Yeah, please do.
You know, from a design standpoint, we haven't gotten into all the details yet. I would say that from the examples that Eric shared with you during the presentation, on the exterior, the metal cladding was visible, and that would definitely be a consideration. I would say that it would absolutely be painted. So
Should I go to the slide, Jen? Should I go to it?
Sure, yeah, sure. But I would actually, if the metal cladding were exposed, it would absolutely be painted. The project that we worked on in Lawrenceville, you know, was a painted container. You can see that a large portion of the metal is removed for glass and openings and windows, so and doors for that matter. So it's not going to be 100%, metal. There will be plenty of openings and other new construction. I think that untreated or untouched containers left in the elements, would definitely have issues over time, but this will really be a very finished product. So.
Great. That concludes my questions. Sorry, I had a list, but I do that. And we are at time at 7:45. So I want to say that usually within a couple days, we finish cleaning up the notes. Sam types real fast and it takes us a little bit of time sometimes to clean everything up. You can again submit additional questions to either of us by email, and we will put that in the chat near the end of the meeting, or by phone. And we can get those and then, to the developer, and then we will add those questions to the notes documents on Facebook and our website. But additionally, we will not only send the notes and the presentation out to everyone here or who has registered for this meeting, even if they didn't attend, but also send answers to follow-up questions if they aren't, if the development team isn't able to answer them before we get the notes out. So with that, we're right on time. I will say thank you, Eric and Rebecca and Jennifer and Freddie, who's not here anymore, for your presentation. We appreciate it. And you can feel free to log off whenever you are ready. I think, Rebecca, you will have to stop screen sharing before you can log off. I think that's how that works.
Okay, I'll do that now. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate everybody. We welcome further questions and thank you for your time. We will see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.